Women of Reddit. What book annihilated your reading slump in adulthood? These are my recs. They're all fun and fast-paced while having enough depth to keep you interested. Hench by Natalie Zena Walscots, superhero dark comedy. Akatar by Sarah J. Maas, fantasy romance. Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, sci-fi thriller. Beach Read by Emily Henry, romance. A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, fantasy dark academia. A Darker Shade of Magic by Vay Squab, fantasy adventure. All Systems Read by Martha Wells, sci-fi comedy. The Martian by Andy Weir, sci-fi survival with a sense of humor. I used to read a lot of fantasy and fiction. And then when I grew older I felt like I wanted to learn a lot more about the world, so I kept reading nonfiction. I read some. But I think it's easier for me to absorb knowledge through watching/listening or interactive methods like note-taking, as opposed to just reading. So I entered the slump. I bought a couple of fantasy books again recently and fall right back into the I should put the book down and go to sleep but I won't all-nighter whenever I read one of them lol. During the pandemic I reread all the books that you normally read in high schools in the US, Brave New World. 1984. Fahrenheit 451. Flowers for Algernon. And more. I had very different reactions to them as a 30-year-old than I did when I was 15/16. I did actually always read the book haha. So that was really interesting. Also I read a book called Eat Like a Fish which was incredible and I highly recommend it. It's about a fisherman turned restorative ocean farmer. Sometimes I don't want to read in my free time because I am constantly reading research papers, and so in my downtime I don't necessarily want to do more reading. A girl I like texts me I used to have a crush on you lol and then I didn't ask her out. What's your I missed the hint story? Met a girl on Tinder. And agreed to a stay and date, pandemic. She said she was gonna have a shower before I came over. She answered the door in a towel. Said she was just finishing up and would go change. I sat in the living room until she came back. We had mac and cheese. She showed me her favorite anime. We mutually shared trauma. I helped her accept that she had shit friends that got her into hard drugs. We went and got snacks, had a few beers, went home at 5 a.m., realized the next day she literally answered the door in a towel. She texts me a few days later saying she is back together with her French ex-BF. She was so damn cute too and we got along. But she had some issues. Girl I liked wanted to come over back in mid-HS before a rafting trip. I also knew she liked me. We were home alone. We went up to my room and sat together on her futon. She definitely wasn't a virgin and was wearing short shorts and was talking about how smooth her legs or thighs were and told me to rub them or something like that. It was like 17 years ago, so hard to remember exactly. Stupid me back then thought, oh, surely this means nothing and is totally platonic. Yep. They sure are smooth. Then did nothing. Yeah. I still feel stupid 15 years later. Even worse was she was with this dude I didn't particularly like. Would have been nice to finger GF then tell him to smell my fingers later on in the day. Why is the lab leak theory so taboo? Because people who support it almost always indicate that it was made as a bioweapon. After intensive research on it we know it wasn't modified. The point is that nobody will ever know which part of the town the virus came from. Generally, the lab leak theory is wrongly used to support the theory that the Chinese government purposely leaked or even created the virus. Not only does the science support that the virus was created naturally in bats, but it is also more likely to have come from a wet market than leaked from a lab. The media is mostly leaving out the very important detail that the US government said the lab leak theory had a low possibility of being true. It's not so taboo anymore. That being said, even suggesting it could be plausible in any way, shape, form, or fashion was taboo and would get you banned off pretty much every social media platform for spreading misinformation in 2020-2021. That was largely because Trump was claiming COVID came from a lab leak, and even remotely agreeing with Trump on something was completely unpalatable for a huge number of liberals, even if it was perfectly plausible. Because it's bullshit. And as someone has already pointed out, it's the go-to for racists and conspiracy theorists. The novel coronavirus is not even that novel. It literally has like 99% identity to previously isolated viruses. And we've known for a long time how the zoonotic transmission, from other animals to humans, occurs. And there have been ample of people studying the transmission and tracking its spread. But it's also bullshit because the places that work on these viruses don't and can't fuck around even in the slightest. There's way more security and procedures involved with a ton of fail-safes. Source, I am a virologist. Have you ever hit a woman? If yes, why? One of my older sisters. Family get together out of town. I had just gotten a tattoo on my shoulder that same day and my sister kept trying to smack it and punch me. I body slammed her. She was warned multiple times by my wife and I to stop trying to fight me for no reason other than she thinks she can take me. This happened in a hotel room. No, I do not feel bad. Yes, she's fine. I knocked the wind out of her and she gave up. Let me preface this by saying you shouldn't hit a woman. Not because there is absolutely no reason but because prison exists. But I remember I was in the 7th grade and some girl was arguing with me. I decided to ignore her and out of nowhere she slapped me across the face. Almost reflexively. Almost. I backhanded her. I was feeling vindicated until I noticed that I'd accidentally broken her nose. There was blood dripping, the floor was a mess, and a little after she passed out. I guess she was shocked that I actually hit her, or maybe she was afraid of blood. I don't know. That's the last time any girl in the class ever tried that shit, that's for sure. Once, and it's one of the biggest regrets of my life. I hit my little sister when we were around 10 to 12 yo. We were arguing about something, I don't even remember what, and I smacked her across the face. Not as hard as I could, but hard enough that she stumbled. She recovered quickly and stood back in my face, tears running down her cheeks, daring me to hit her again. I didn't. I cried with her, apologized, and respected the hell out of her for it. The really regretful part, I learned almost a decade later that she had been sexually assaulted as a child by a family friend. I pieced together that it was just prior to when I hit her. That warrior was fighting demons way bigger than me, and I had no idea.